Hi folks, my name is Mike Dobbs. I'm your host here on Focus Springfield's Government Matters show, and we're here today to talk to the newest member of the Springfield City Council. God bless her, Tracye Whitfield. Great to see you here.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate Focus Springfield and you, Mike, for taking the time to do this with me today.
Well, I thought that it would be good, and Steve Cary thought it would be good in order to introduce you to the people of Springfield. Yes, you ran for office not that very long ago, but again, you're being put in this position because you were the top vote getter underneath the 10 that were brought to the council. Therefore, with the exodus of Tom Ash to the mayor's office to become his chief of staff, you're now on the council.
I am.
So you've gone from being a bridesmaid to a bride, so to speak.
I'm the bride.
So tell us a little bit about your background. Who are you, and are you a native Springfield person?
I am. So I'm Tracye Whitfield. I was born and raised in Springfield. Went to all my schooling in Springfield, graduated from the High School of Commerce, got my bachelor's and master's from AIC, so everything I've done has been local. I just do want to tell you a little bit about my parents, though. They're from North Carolina. Both my parents and my mom's family actually worked in the cotton field, and how they got here is they wanted a better life. You know, they didn't want to do that forever. And so at 18, a lot of my aunts and uncles left the South and came up north, and they ended up in Springfield, and that's how I became a resident here. And grew up, I had my daughter very young at 18, single mom. So I worked to take care of her, and I had a 10-year career at Mass Mutual, and then I went to work for City Hall in the finance department as a finance analyst, and from now I work for two colleges, Stick and HCC. I just seen so much in the community, but I learned a lot as a finance analyst, which made me want to enter into political world.
Well, I was going to, one of the questions that we always like to ask is what motivated you to run? So was there a particular issue or a particular circumstance that told you this was the time that you wanted to start in this process?
Well, first, my children are adults now, and so I had the time. But when I was working in the finance office, I had the opportunity to meet with a lot of city departments, learn about the budget process, learn about the resources that Springfield offers with our tax money, because I am a homeowner in Springfield. And I just was like, a lot of people in the community don't know what to do, what to ask for, don't know how important local politics are, bringing resources to their own community, and I just wanted the opportunity to make that process a little bit more fair, because to be honest, in my household, we never talk politics. My parents' goal was to give us a better life. They became homeowners, and not so we didn't have to work as hard. And that's throughout my family, not just my immediate family, but my extended family as well, and my friends. I don't remember people talking about politics when I was younger. And so when I started working at City Hall, I said, someone has to educate folks on where the money goes, where the resources are, and why not me? Who's better than me? And I just wasn't afraid to do it, and that's the reason. I just think it should be equality throughout the city and not just in pockets. And I'm not going to say that all politicians do this, but some keep it in their circle and tell the resources to the people that they know. And I just think it should be more broad. I think everybody should have the opportunity to fair opportunities.
Well, let me ask you this question. A lot of people in the city have been critical of the fact that so many financial resources and so much attention has been paid on downtown redevelopment as opposed to the neighborhoods. I live in Maple High Six Corners. Before that, I lived in Indian Orchard. And those are certainly two neighborhoods that frequently talk about, well, we're a little bit ignored. And there has been criticism that the resources that we have to make the city better go to certain areas before they go to all the neighborhoods. So is this a concern of yours then?
So I do want to say that we do have great economic development and businesses that come to downtown Springfield, and I think that's wonderful. But there are other areas that need that same love and care. There's a lot of empty storefronts. I live in East Springfield. There's empty storefronts over there. We have the Springfield Plaza that could use a whole a total complete makeover, and like you were saying, the Maple Heights Six Corners. So I do think that more attention should be paid, but I also think that residents and the constituents have to come out and speak about it too. And I don't think that they know how to do that. So I don't think that they don't want to. I just don't think they know the resources or the avenues to go to get their message across. Like, if you want something, we really have to kind of like fight for it, or let the mayor know, or the city councilors know, or even our state reps, our senators know that we're important too throughout the city. So it is a concern, but I also want the community to know that they have to get involved as well. And we have to work as a collective to make the entire city better.
Great. Now, you've only been on the city council since September.
September 25th.
And I know that you're on several committees, and I've seen you at committee meetings that I've covered for Reminder Publishing. So what has your impression been? Has this lived up to the expectation that you had prior to getting onto the council?
Definitely has. I think it's a little bit more overwhelming than I thought it was going to be. There are a lot of committee meetings that take place, especially if we do have concerns from the constituents. We try to have meetings to resolve them. So there's a lot of fresh blood on the council now, and so it's our priority to make sure that all voices are heard and that everybody knows that they're important. So it's a lot more meetings than I thought it was going to be. And I try to attend them all because I want to be informed and I want to be versed so I can bring the information back to the community. But it's a great feeling because now I have that information. I have those resources. I'm learning so much, from plastic bags and climate change to tax rate settings to community host agreements and the marijuana establishment process, and how the community can get involved with, you know, where those establishments go. I was pretty versed on the budget because I worked on it, but I still don't know everything, and so there's just a lot more to know. I learned about street lights and traffic, the whole traffic department within the police unit, even what the police is doing with Hub and Core. I am the co-chair of Mason Square C3, so I'm like familiar with that, but there's a lot of other programs that the police department do for the youth. They have a whole youth a youth initiative that they work on. So these are things that I wouldn't know to bring back to the community. I know when summer jobs are coming up, I know, you know, and so I know how to get permits for parks and things that the community can just come to me and ask these questions. And if I don't know, I'll have the resources to send them to.
So what are people talking to you about their concerns? I mean, you know, we're entering this whole period with the licensing of recreational cannabis shops, for instance. I know that's causing a lot of concerns in neighborhoods. Certainly on a day like today, people wonder if their streets are going to be plowed in a timely manner. So what are constituents saying to you that's concerning them?
So what I've heard the most since I've joined the city council, and I heard these complaints before because I've always been part of the community, is the retail cannabis shops, how it's going to affect the community. How are people going to know what's going on with it? Are we going to be transparent with that? I went to a town hall meeting with Jesse Letterman, and it was my first town hall meeting, and that was probably 90% of what we spoke about was about the retail shops. One thing I do want to say about that to the constituents and the people in the city is that we don't want to stereotype people that do use recreational marijuana, because that would be the same thing as stereotyping folks that drink alcohol and things like that. There are guidelines, and these establishments are going to have to be like hidden. They're not going to have windows that you can see through. They got to have a certain amount of like bushes and trees, and so. And also there's a community host agreement that they have to give back to the community. And so we just want to make sure that we're not stereotyping people and, you know, making them criminals because they do recreational marijuana. There are concerns about traffic and folks coming from other communities and saturating Springfield. We just really don't know how the retail marijuana shops are going to affect the city just yet. But we're going to study that. And it's not like we're going to approve 15 at once, you know. We're going to take it slow, approve a couple at a time, see how it works, and then, you know, maybe bring in more or see if we have to change something in the zoning ordinance. So Just being at the beginning of that, well, I wasn't at the very beginning, but tail end of the zoning ordinance, but it's just been fascinating and to hear the folks' concerns and things like that. So I just want people to know that if they do have concerns, they can pick up the phone and call me. A lot of the city councilors are available and approachable. And so that's one of the concerns. The other one I've heard is about streetlights, not being bright enough, not having enough streetlights. So we did briefly talk about that at the town hall meeting, and Jesse's putting together a meeting so we can discuss it more. I don't really know that process well yet, but I am gonna learn it so that I can tell folks how to go to Eversource and if they don't have a street light on your street, or how to get the lights changed, because it's not a city job. We don't own the lights. Hopefully we will one day so we can control all that, but at this time we don't.
Yeah, I know street lighting is something that's of great concern because of public safety, quite frankly.
Yeah.
We want our neighborhoods to, people feel comfortable in our neighborhoods
Definitely.
just walking down the street at night.
I was talking to my coworker yesterday, and she said that there's no lights on her street. It's a dead end. I don't know if it's a private way or not, but I have her information, and I'm going to find out if we can get the streets and how easy it'll be to get some lights on her street, because that's important. It's dark, and you know it gets dark at like 5 o'clock, so folks want to feel safe.
So, talking about concerns brings me to a question about what you see are the biggest challenges facing the city. Because, you know, for the last few years, you know, we've had 3 major projects that have been completed: the rail car company, Union Station, and of course MGM, right behind that wall.
That's right.
And so I've wondered what people feel are the next challenges that we need to overcome, either in economic development or in public safety. What do you think? What do you think is the future kind of projects that we should be working on?
So one that I'm currently working on, and I'm adamant to work on, is gun violence. It's in the Black and brown community, specifically males like 15 to 24. And just to be honest, the children that are, or the young adults that are dying are my friends' children, people that I went to high school with. And so that's a big concern to me. There is a cure violence model that looks at gun violence as a public safety issue. So it's gonna take the community, Health and Human Services, Springfield PD, just a bunch of organizations coming together to combat this gun violence. And it's a whole model that anyone can look up. And the Department of Public Health, they just announced that there's going to be $10 million. There's going to be $10 million in revenue to go to the community. So I think that now is the time for us to ramp up to be in a position to get that money to combat this gun violence, because a lot of times folks think that Springfield isn't safe because, well, you know, there are murders in the city. One murder is too much, and we just got to get back to a place where the youth don't feel like they have to turn to guns and violence. They need support systems and wraparound services to get them to the place where they can be comfortable. So they just hang out together, and they think that, you know, everybody has guns, so maybe I have to have one to protect myself. And it's their reality, and we just have to change that normality for them. We have to make that, you know, that's not how it really is. And so that is something that I'm really passionate about. And just really quickly, one more thing is, you know, Jesse has town hall meetings, but I'm going to host, along with collaboration with the mayor's office, information sessions. And those sessions are going to teach the community how to navigate their city resources. And so we're going to bring like the assessor's office to the table, Health and Human Services to the table. And it's not going to be a table where you vent to them, but learn how to learn the abatement process, learn the resources, and how you can have access to the resources. So that should start early next year.
Well, I know that, unfortunately, there are certain media outlets that pounce on every act of violence that's in the city. And, you know, I've had people say to me, and I've lived in Springfield many years now, you know, well, don't you feel unsafe? And my answer is no, I personally don't feel unsafe. Right. I live in a working class, working poor neighborhood where everybody lives. I don't feel unsafe in my neighborhood. I don't feel unsafe walking downtown, but then I'm not at 2 a.m. downtown either. Yeah. So if we're able to dispel some of that gun violence, we're also able to change people's attitudes
Right.
toward the city, which in turn make it a more attractive place to live and do business in.
Yeah, I agree with you. So my tagline was ASAP. We got to make changes ASAP, always Springfield, always positive. So, you know, I don't let folks from other communities come to Springfield and talk negatively about Springfield because you haven't even experienced it. And usually the violence happen in targeted communities. People are targeted, and it's at a certain time of the early morning, late at night, where most people aren't out during that time. So we just have to come together as one Springfield and make sure we don't let people give us that negative images. There's so many media outlets in the area, and they all target the same thing, and a lot of it is the violence in Springfield, but we can change that.
So you've talked a little bit about dealing with gun violence in sort of a holistic way. Are there other initiatives or other issues that are attracting you in terms of working on the city council?
Like I said, I just really want to be transparent, and I want folks to bring the issues to me. So we have city councilors working on a lot of other initiatives. So I do work on like youth homelessness. I think that's important to work on homelessness overall. Veterans programs, no veteran should be homeless. No veteran should be without resources. So it's just so many things that we can work on. I only have like a year and I'm campaigning again. So in a year, I do want to make an impact. So I really want to focus on this gun violence. But if there's any other issues or things that folks need me for, if it's will benefit the city of Springfield, I'm willing to at least have the conversation.
Now, I know you described your background in finances and financial analysis. Something that always is an issue in Springfield is our tax rate. And we have a split rate.
We
so
do.
we've got a commercial rate, we have a residential rate. There's always concern about how do you balance out the two?
Yeah.
Who is carrying the load, or do you somehow make it equal? In terms of our finances, do you think that we're in a good place at this point as a city?
I think we are. So our property values have increased to about 151,000 average, and probably it was like 127 about 5 years ago. I think that we do have to find a way to make it a little bit more equal so we can attract more businesses to the area. I think that's one thing, having a high tax rate that keeps them out of the community. But I think that our residents can't really afford to have a single rate for, I don't think we can afford that because it'll be about 25% across the board. And right now we're at like 19.68% per thousand. That's what we pay for our property value. So I don't know the answer to that. I just went to a meeting yesterday actually on the tax rates and how we can like bridge the gap. And I know some folks wanted to use MGM money to do that, but we have to realize that we took a loan from MGM. We have to pay some of that money back. Also, the MGM money goes to other resources that are provided in the city. We hired more officers and things like that. So it's not just like, oh, and it's 14 after, you know, some money comes out, it's about 14 million that goes back to the community. And so it's a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money, you know, when our budget.
It's a lot of money for you and I.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of money when you're talking about a city
for the city,
of 154,000 people.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, I know that you know, taxes is something that the city council has to tackle every year. Are you looking forward to this discussion?
I'm looking forward to any of the financial discussions because I know the questions to ask because I worked in the department. That one's just a little bit hard. I don't know how, we have like a 15% gap, and I think the state wanted more at like a 10% gap. I don't know how to do that. Maybe we need to do some studies and figure out how other communities have done it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that one.
Well, I know that people view MGM as sort of this bottomless pit of money that that we can keep tapping as a city, but in reality, we really can't. I mean, we have a host community agreement that specifies what they pay out and where it goes and how it can be used.
Right.
I think sometimes people's expectations are a little bit unrealistic.
I think so too, and I think we got to look at attracting more businesses to the community, and we have to look at where these open storefronts is besides downtown. I think MGM is not going to be our end-all be-all. They helped us out of a tough time, but now the tax revenue is pretty much going to be level, and so it's going to be part of the budget now. It's going to be part of the general fund, and so we just have to bring more companies to Springfield. More businesses that can increase our tax revenue and our tax base. So,
do you think that we've been doing a good job doing that in the past? Do we need to change the way we're trying to do it?
I think we're doing good downtown. I think that I don't know how they advertise like open storefronts, and I think a big problem that we have is some of the storefronts there's no parking, and so businesses can't really thrive in some of the areas in the community. So I don't really know how they promote Springfield. I know that there was a business owner that wanted to come to Springfield probably about 4 years ago, and Springfield gave him the hardest time. He has his business has grown to $3 million, and he ended up in Holyoke. How can we make that process easier for businesses that want to come to our community? You know, so it was just really a loss for us. And he doesn't take up a lot of space because it's like a mobile CNA service. Mm-hmm. And so, but Holyoke is reaping the benefit of that business because he really wanted to come to Springfield first.
Well, we are in competition with our neighboring communities for these things.
We are. So we have to make the process easier and make it more attractive to come to Springfield.
Now, in your neighborhood in town, because I know you live up off of St. James.
I do.
So do you see that the needs of that neighborhood are different from like needs of other neighborhoods? Or do you think that when we talk about neighborhood needs, they all have commonalities? There's things that all of them are looking to improve.
I think all the neighborhoods need to have some improvement. When I think about our neighborhoods, I see that some of our stores are like run down. We need like a facelift over in East Springfield. We need to get folks in there that's going to beautify the city and give back to the city because we give them TIFs, you know, so they get an incentive to come to the city. So let's just make sure it's beautiful because I know that Big Y is going to have like an expansion and a makeover project coming up in the future. But if you're getting a tax break, this is what you should be doing. And just keeping the whole neighborhood beautiful. Every neighborhood could use some improvements, but I do think that like areas like East Forest Park, and they're just as important as any other area, but to me it's like a little bit more beautiful over there. In downtown, you know, they beautify downtown, and even like they came up the State Street corridor a little bit with the lights and everything like that. I think that should be done everywhere. Just, you know, small things like that help the whole city look beautiful.
Well, they do. So you're on a government affairs committee at this point?
General government and federal and state committee.
And have you had the chance to dip your toe into those as yet? Because I know you go to other committee meetings and you're active on them.
I do. Not really, no toe dipping. I have been to one general government meeting, but that's run by Melvin Edwards, so I'm just on the committee. He's the chair, and we talked about broadband, bringing broadband. That's huge. We do need fiber optics and broadband in the community, and we just listened to what the resident had to say about that. And he did great research, and living in East Springfield, I know that we do not have the best service over there. As soon as I pass the light in St. James, I lose my reception. It's not good over there. We have to do something for the businesses to stay. That's another thing that we can do to keep the businesses in the community. Yeah.
Has anyone suggested municipal broadband yet?
Municipal broadband?
Yeah, in Chicopee, they're talking about the Chicopee Electric Light would actually have a broadband service, so you could be in competition with the commercial broadband.
Right.
And in Springfield, you know, I'm just thinking, well, we have these fiber optic networks.
Exactly.
Is this something that we could do?
So yes, the gentleman who came to the general government meeting, that's exactly what he was talking about, the municipal broadband. We just needed to attract the businesses, and a lot of towns in Massachusetts are moving to that, and we're like a huge city, and so we do need to at least do a study. And so I think we were talking about where that revenue would come, because a lot of times when we implement something and do a study, it costs money, you know? And so we just got to figure out where that money is going to come from. But I think the gentleman, I can't remember his name, but he's very smart and he knows his stuff. He has some ways that we can probably get funding for it as well.
Well, that would be great, because
at least to do the study.
it's really economic development, because
It
you're
is.
giving broadband access to maybe young entrepreneurs who need the web to develop their business, and you know,
Yeah.
it builds the community.
Yeah, because sometimes the credit card swiper goes down and they're using paper. Like, that is so old school.
Well, yes, yes,
you know?
yes.
We got to be state of the art in Springfield, Mass. So, you know, that is very important to bring those resources. And even like, we should be able to go anywhere, sit down and use Wi-Fi. Libraries, every library, we should be able to go to the parks and use Wi-Fi. You know, should be that simple.
Well, we'll let you work on it.
Okay, I'll do my best.
We'll let you work on it here. Okay, so you're fulfilling the term of Tom Ash. So you've got, what, about a year, you said?
Next year we're on the campaign trail again. Yeah, so.
Is that a little nerve-wracking, because you're trying to get into your groove of knowing what you need to know as a city councilor, and now you've got the pressures of a campaign that are looming over there?
Yeah, it's very nerve-wracking, but I'm more educated than I was the last time. So when folks ask certain questions, I think I'll have those answers, and I think it'll be a little bit more smooth, because I didn't know what I was doing last time when I was campaigning. My whole campaign team was new. Like, we had no senior folks on our team, so we did really good. We were happy with our results, and we're just gonna plug through it again. And but at least I have some education and some knowledge now on how the government works a little bit better. And I encourage anyone who can come out to these meetings to learn this information to come on out. Like, I always say, if you're gonna come with a complaint, at least have a solution or be willing to get one. And so the information is like out there, and if you don't know where to get it, ask one of the city councilors. That's what we are here for. We are here for the constituents, right? And so if your city councilor isn't there for you, then that's something to think about, you know? So this is our role, this is our job. So,
Excellent.
yeah.
Well, Tracye, thank you so much for coming by today.
Thank you for having me.
I think it's great to get to know you a little bit better. I think the people out in Springfield are now going to be aware of what your initiatives are and what you want to do, and this is good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate being here. Thank you to you for interviewing me, and Focus Springfield for having me. And I don't know if I'll get this opportunity again, but I hope so.
I'm sure we will.
Okay.
And folks, thanks very much for watching Government Matters here on Focus Springfield.